Right, shall we get into it then? Deadline day. Let's get to our first reporter. Chelsea have been dominating the window once again, and there looks to be plenty more to come from them today, including potentially one of the biggest deals of the window.
Yeah, let's just go straight there, shall we? Let's get to Stamford Bridge and speak to our reporter in the know, Gail Davis. Gail, happy deadline day. Great to see you bright and early. Now, it's another transfer window and yet another opportunity for Chelsea to spend hundreds of millions of pounds, as we've seen again. The biggest deal of the window can still happen today on deadline day. What's the latest on their pursuit of a striker, and in particular, Victor Osimhen?
Yeah, very good morning to you, Jess. What we know is that Chelsea would like a striker. There are two main runners at the moment. We don't know which one might be here by the end of the day, but significant developments in the transfer of Victor Osimhen late last night, very early this morning. Kaveh Solikol does not sleep. He just plugs himself in, I think, for a little bit of a recharge, because he said that potentially this could make the move significantly easier and better to do by the end of the day, in that Chelsea and the Napoli star would consider a loan with an obligation to buy. You might think those few words don't make a huge amount of impact, but effectively that does mean it's a permanent move. It just means that not everything has to take place right now, because Osimhen, remember, signed that contract extension at Napoli with huge wages just a year ago. That release clause is over 130 million euros, and he's on huge wages alongside that. That's the release clause. Chelsea, unsurprisingly, given what they've spent in the window and because they are more streamlined in their finances, didn't want to pay that out. But this obligation to buy at the end of it, it's effectively a move, isn't it? Which is what Osimhen wants himself. What we know is that Ahli has put a very lucrative offer on the table for him, and as Pete mentioned a few minutes ago, the deadline for that doesn't shut until 11:59 on Monday evening. So there's still room if he doesn't come here. But his agent has said he's got unfinished business in Europe. What a prospect if he does come over here to the Premier League. I think Chelsea fans could get very, very excited if this one can get over the line before the deadline.
Oh, Gail, yeah, no doubt about it. That would be a huge move for Chelsea. Chelsea also actively, I guess, trying to move some players out today, and some big names as well. The likes of Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell. What's the latest on the outgoings up there?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you look at their website and they've got 30-plus players on their website, and we know that in Premier League squads you can only have 25. And we also know that Enzo Maresca has made it quite clear who is in his thoughts and who isn't. He was asked, wasn't he, before the Servette game in Switzerland about those players, the likes of Raheem Sterling in particular. He said if he doesn't get a move in this window, he will not play any minutes. I mean, it's quite brutal to hear, isn't it? But Sterling, whilst he's open to other offers, he won't make a move that doesn't suit him and doesn't suit his family. Look, we know about this potential swap deal with Jadon Sancho, which sort of suits both parties, isn't it? You've got two players that aren't playing for each club. So if they switch, then, you know, there's a case of they might be more valuable to those their new clubs. At least they might get a look in and get some minutes. And there are some other offers on the table for Sterling, but you know, he wants to. He's still got 3 years in his contract. He's 29 years old. He's still got ambitions to play for England, so he needs to probably not make that Saudi move just yet. He wants to be playing high-profile football, doesn't he? So he's probably the main one, and Chelsea have been trying to find him the right club, and they'll put that to him today, or they'll work through that today. And the other one, I guess, the most high-profile that Chelsea haven't moved on, and remember they've done a lot of loan deals. They've sold a lot of players in this window. Their net spend is much smaller than you'd imagine when you start totting up the players that have been sold, the likes of Conor Gallagher. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Ben Chilwell goes, and also maybe how they use him if, for example, Osimhen doesn't get that move and they look for someone like Tony, can he be used as part of the deal to bring him in? So there's a lot of moving parts. As Carve said to me, Chelsea are juggling a lot of balls today, and we're just not sure at the moment which ones they're going to catch and which ones are going to land.
Right, let's start with Victor Osimhen there. Just a reminder that Chelsea are prepared to sign him on loan with an obligation to buy. Kwaku, makes perfect sense to come to you first. The lovely Chelsea badge just behind your head there. How exciting could this be? One of the biggest names in Europe potentially coming to the Premier League.
Big day, big name. This is what deadline day is all about. Victor Osimhen has been linked with Chelsea for a little while. He's a player that really starred for Napoli a couple of years ago, where he really broke out, scored 26 league goals in 32 games, led them to a Scudetto, was a really key player. And at that point in time, he was the most coveted striker in Europe. Last season, he suffered a combination of injuries and also missed games through his involvement in AFCON in January. But he's a player that is a proven goal scorer, and there's not many of those in football currently. And so it's understandable why Chelsea would be interested in his services, especially when you look at Chelsea's frailties when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net, especially from a striker, a proper number 9, who Chelsea haven't really had since Diego Costa in 2017. Osimhen has a fondness for Chelsea. Big hero was Didier Drogba. And so the link makes sense. It's the finances that's the difficulty. Gail talked about it there in terms of the huge wages he's on, signed the contract extension or new deal, which put him on some of the biggest wages in Serie A. But Chelsea need a striker. They've been linked with a few of them over the last couple of days. You can understand why a player like Victor Osimhen would be of interest to Chelsea, because he's a very, very good player.
You mentioned AFCON there. You were lucky enough to be up close and personal, with Victor Osimhen, seeing him play live. Just what was he like? Because not everyone would have watched AFCON. So in that tournament, what was he like? What did you get from watching him?
Unfortunately for him, he wasn't prolific. Nigeria made it all the way to the final, but he only scored 1 goal in that competition. Did have 3 goals disallowed for various reasons, so it could have looked very different on the face of it. But what you did see is a player who's willing to do the work for the team. And under Enzo Maresca, you're going to need that. He's a manager that requires his players to all work, and he's mentioned that in pre-season, he's mentioned that in the season. And I think that Victor Osimhen can give you that. And also he's very decisive in front of goal. Unfortunately, in AFCON, he wasn't given those opportunities by his teammates. He's a player that, what I really like is that in Serie A, it wasn't a lot of set pieces, it wasn't a lot of penalties, it was a lot of non-penalty goals. At Chelsea, Cole Palmer takes those penalties. So a player that can score goals from open play is definitely what Chelsea need. I think that Osimhen could deliver that for them.